Dun, 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 dun. Hey everyone, D here. Sorry, we should have. That's improv, folks. We don't plan these things. We just have a good time. Welcome everyone to our Fans of Shield Season 4 discussion. We are splitting Season 4 up into 3 parts, appropriately so, as it is the 3-pod season. Part 1, of course, is tonight. We're talking Ghost Rider. That is episodes 1 through 8. And joining me, as always, the fans themselves, kicking things off over here on the side. It's Mr. Rob Stone.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Fans of Shield, old Shield, new Shield, however you want to put it. It's so good to finally be talking about Agents of Shield Season 4. And if you haven't noticed, I'm finally releasing my own Season 4 reviews after a really long time, little by little. So we'll probably be done with those reviews by sometime next year. They'll probably be released by the time they're released, it'll be the ones that I recorded. Like even now, I've got 2 left to do, so it'll be like another 6 months. It's going to be fun to see what the world's like when I actually get those done. But it's so great to talk about my favorite season of this show. And we've been looking forward to this. It's finally happening. We're breaking it up. We're focused, just like the show was this season. Now we got to take it downstairs to the man, the myth, the Hydra agent, Mr. Don Willie.
Hey y'all. Wait, no, wrong show. Listen, season 4, ultimate Shield, ultimate Hydra. Come on, we got the framework, we got Ghost Rider, and Ghost Rider was awesome. I mean, we got Hydra Ward in full Hydra Ward glory. I don't need to say much more than that. Agent Corrie, stage is yours.
Hey guys. Well, we also got good undercover ward in the framework, right? So potential real shield ward. I like that word. Anyway, it's great to be back. I love this season. The arcs are wonderful. We really hit our stride. So I'm just excited to dig in. Hooray.
Excellent. And of course, joining us live in the chat tonight, we've got Kevin Murphy, NV Warren, and Babaro. Welcome. And everyone else jumping in, and for everyone joining us in the archives, thank you so much for checking out our show. If you do enjoy it, please be sure to hit the like button and the subscribe and the notifications. There's lots of buttons. Hit them all. Hit all of the buttons. Okay, so let's sort of just dive into things here. Season 4, as many of us have noted already, often thought of as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s best season. It is certainly my favorite. I think it is the tightest. They, of course, at this point have really sharpened their storytelling skills. We get our 3-pod placement, which is basically kind of the cable norm of 8-ish episodes or so. We have 8 for the first pod, and then 7 for each the second and third. There is not a bad episode in this entire season. The storytelling is tight. The action moves. One thing is introduced in one episode, and it moves to the next stage or is solved in the next episode, which brings us to the next problem. It is perfectly placed. There is no dull moment in here. We also get some of our best incarnations and our best villains. I'm going to give hands out right now from the top to Mallory Jensen, of course, who is playing Ada. Very innocent in our first initial pod here with Ghost Rider. Turns a little bit darker as the season goes on. Just brilliant every moment she's on the screen. John Hannah, of course, coming back as Radcliffe, who I love. And we get Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider, played by Gabriel Luna. And I know there's a lot of different opinions. This isn't the Johnny Blaze. This is the Ghost Driver, not the Ghost Rider. I mean, we've gotten a lot of these. However, Gabriel Luna kills it in this. He gets the emotion, he gets the intensity. The storyline again is beautiful. And Mark Kolpack's effects. He's the special effects genius behind Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Just really sells. I think, honestly, better than the 2 movies we've had with Nick Cage. This Ghost Rider looks so much better. We also have some interesting MCU tie-ins in the fact that this is the only season, I believe Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is really the only Marvel property outside of Civil War that actually deals and addresses with Sokovia Accords. Certainly their implementation and the effects of them. I was looking through, I'm not even sure how much, if ever, it's really mentioned again, except maybe in Infinity War, with the rest of the movies in Phase 3, despite it being a large, huge impact. So this is something that I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. does so well with the minutia of the MCU, of what the effects of those big decisions in the larger movies and how that sort of affects the everyday people. It's something Agents did great, and I think something that really permeated throughout this entire season. Of course, we also get Davis's return this season, and Piper, who was introduced last season, who are just kind of mainstays through the rest of the show. So, those are just fun little moments. But let's toss things around to you guys. What were your thoughts and impacts on season 4? Rob, let's kick things off with you.
The first thing that I think, and you hit it, is how they this season is the best setups that they've ever done for the 3 pods. This, like, a lot of shows set a lot of things up in 22 episode seasons, but they're always there was a lot of filler in those seasons. There's things that were just like, yeah, it's good character development, but like this has things being set up and that are going to pay off all the way down the line in episode 1. They continue to just play and give you little seeds of things so that when you get to the next pod, you're already ready for it. You're not going, huh? And it's just so well crafted. And to think of where you start and where you end, and how we've had crazy seasons in the past where it begins this way and that way. None of them are like this one where it's just so seamless. Where you just go seamlessly into one thing or another. There's nothing jarring about it. And even if one pod ends, the effects of those, what happens in each one, carries over. Things that happen in the last bit of this season are still carried over from what happens in these first 8 episodes. They don't just get rid of it. And I just, with how everybody got to change and evolve, like Fitz going from curious, to the fanatic, in the framework, the darkest Fitz, Ada, like you said, being innocent, going and becoming Madam Hydra, the fact that we also get to have like this season with so many great, by the end of it, things that just tie the whole series together in some ways. Things that, like, when you get like characters like Trip and Ward and all these great things that just acknowledge everything else and done in such a great, proper way. And then you get the best Ghost Rider. Like, I don't care if it's Johnny Blaze or Frank Castle's Cosmic Ghost Rider or Danny Ketch or Robbie Reyes or what they're driving or whatever. This is the best looking Ghost Rider. This is this Ghost Rider that I always wanted. A serious one, not this tongue-in-cheek, over-the-top Nicolas Cage thing that they were doing. While it might have had some of the beats right as far as the world, it never got the character right completely. It was too much. And this is just, Robbie Reyes' story is relevant, and he's on the Avengers right now in the comics. Like, Robbie Reyes is a full-blown member of the Avengers. So they knew that they had something good with this character, and they've been doing something good with him for the past 3 or 4 years. So anybody who has a problem with, Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider, he's not going away anytime soon. And his story was just interesting, and I thought maybe it wouldn't be at first, but it was very compelling. And I'm going to stop because I'm rambling now.
No, not at all. Not at all. All right, Don, what about yourself? What did you think of this season?
I mean, listen, awesome season, especially the way that they kind of split everything up. And it's like, even though you can tell when it became a new story, it was so seamless that it was like, okay, well, yeah, this is just like the next logical step in evolving thing. You keep it fresh, but at the same point, still familiar. And that's what I loved about the change up in storytelling style this season, because you get a lot of shows that kind of get stuck in this routine of, okay, this is the big bad, shows up somewhere in the first 3 episodes, kicks everybody's ass, then he pops up every now and then. Maybe there's a new minion of the week, and it's like, all right, well, we have to do everything we can to stop this one big bad. And it's like, all right, well, how is this different from the last big bad you guys had to stop? So yeah, I was glad that things evolved and it wasn't just this static thing of, okay, I know what's gonna happen next. They did play with our expectations on a lot of stuff. I mean, think about it. Ada, who would have thought, watching season 3, hearing the disembodied voice of Ada, that Ratcliffe was going to make an LMD, the most sophisticated LMD possible, and then she was going to wind up being Madam Hydra. And then, to get into the framework and see how everyone's lives have been, would be different under those circumstances. I mean, Coulson isn't even a spy. He's a teacher. I mean, the heartbreaking thing that happened to Mac at the end when they were like, hey, listen, if you don't get out of the framework now, you are donezo. And he had to say goodbye to his daughter for the second time. Like, oh, come on. Like, how could you kill a man like that? Just emotionally. Like, he already lost his daughter for real. Thought that, that was a dream. He thought him losing his daughter was the dream, only to find out that him still having her around. I'm like, oh my God. And come on, Leopold. What more come on. Leopold. Anyone who's seen season 4, you cannot forget Ian DeCastdecker as the Doctor, because they built him up for a couple of episodes too, I think, before they actually showed him. So it was like, oh, wait until the Doctor catches you. The Doctor. And then you finally see who the Doctor is, and it's just like, oh, so this is what our guy Fitz would be like if he was a homicidal maniac. This is scary. This is very scary, but very memorable. I almost wanted him to take on some of the Doctor's traits when he came back to the regular world. almost. Yeah, but I look. I can't rave enough about this season. So before I lose focus too much, Agent Corrie.
Oh goodness, you've left me the scraps. What can I come up with? I guess jumping off your point, Agent Williams, is that the big bads of season 4 were always twists that I didn't anticipate, which I really liked. Like even Eli, I originally, when we meet him, I mean, I wasn't thinking he was the villain. I was thinking, here's this guy who's really being put upon, treated terribly, and now he's in this situation, and he killed someone and he's in jail for it, but there's something else to the story. Seems like he was more the victim than the perpetrator. And then we find out, no, he's orchestrated this all to begin with. So that was shocking. And Ada gives me nightmares. I mean, it's a complicated relationship. Every time I am introduced to her again through the season, I'm like, oh, she's so nice. And I'm like, wait, remember what she's like later. Okay. I want to like her at the beginning because she does seem very nice and trustworthy and competent, and May likes her. May's always a good judge of character. And then she ends up, murdering people, and sticking them in the Matrix, basically. So not so great. And then even the doctor, not seeing what the difference of someone's love in your life can make. Like, I remember there was a conversation about what could make Fitz change so drastically. And I think it was Yo-Yo says something like, even a simple word, like one sentence can change your life, like I love you. And that was really, really touching and really sad to see that Fitz's father was abusive and horrible. And so being around him and growing up with him made this terrible sort of, I don't know, destroyed any humanity Fitz had and made him into this character. But I guess the one redeeming part is that Gemma can still see the real Fitz in him. And so she's kind of his redemption that she comes along with. She says, I know the real you and you're not this, even though you were for a time. So those, like the villains and the twists that we had with them. Anyway, spoilers if you haven't seen season 4.
What are you doing watching this if you haven't seen season 4?
Yeah, really. That was great. And then I really love the humor. We kind of lose a bit of that in the later seasons as it gets a bit darker. And so I really liked having that. David's wife is pregnant and they're asking him, like, how's your wife? And he's like, bigger every day. And he's like, oh, I wouldn't tell her that. More beautiful every day. She's like, that's better. So just humor like that. Makes me laugh. That's why I watch S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, again, I think there's such a perfect balance, and again, with the timing, even with the humor injections, nothing is ever too much, but it does feel appropriate for the characters when it is used, which I think is nice. And you actually kind of hit on an interesting thing. Not only is consequences kind of a big theme throughout this season, the consequences of decisions, but love as well kind of becomes a thing that can breach dimensions when we get through our first arc here, can make connections with other people, then of course can drive those people to make choices with consequences their own as a result of that love or the lack thereof. So kind of a lot of interesting themes that continue out through this. So let's kick things off then straight into the season here. We're going to sort of round robin this out with everyone. So we'll start with Rob talking about episode 1, The Ghost. Then we'll have everyone kind of add their thoughts. Then we'll jump into episode 2, starting with Don down there, 3 with Corrie, 4 with me, and you get it. It just continues around like that. So why don't you kick us off, Rob? The Ghost, episode 1, setting the stage for the season. Give us your thoughts.
Well, one thing we didn't mention in our little round table here about what we thought about the season was we're actually dealing with something that's not Inhumans. We keep talking about Inhumans. There is still the mention of Inhumans with Senator Nadir. It's like toilet paper on our shoe at this point. We just can't get it off. But our overall story really is just people who can't get that idea out of their heads about Inhumans, but we're not really dealing with Inhumans. The problem isn't Inhumans in this. It's humans, other humans doing things. And then humans making worse things like Ada, and people making deals with devils and all this stuff. So it's to start this season off without an inhuman story and starting with Ghost Rider right off the bat, where like I like where we left Daisy on working on the streets, right? But like since it could have been too emo-ish and too like mopey, but to throw her into the middle of the Ghost Rider storyline instead of letting her just kind of just helping people here and there, bouncing in and out. No, throw her into the mix with Ghost Rider, getting that effect of the explosion and this car flipping up in the air, going against Aryan Brotherhood people. Fantastic. Getting Yo-Yo back in this episode, Agent Davis back in this episode, and then Fitz getting pulled into Radcliffe's world. The beginning stages of the framework where it's just them using like VR goggles and just seeing the beginnings of what it's going to be. Like we said, it sets everything up for later in just these interesting ways that are like, oh, we're just doing this, that, and the other, and we know it's going to come back, but we don't know at the time when we're watching this. We're like, what is this? Where is this going with this? How is this going to be worked into the show proper? And where we, like, it's just so genius right from the word jump, man, in this episode. So great visual effects as always because of the Ghost Rider stuff. Great setups, like most setup stories. They just show you where everybody's at and what they're doing. And it's just kind of like you feel like, okay, that whole first episode is just where everybody is and what they're doing. And this, no, we jump into the action. We have straight stories going on. We're not waiting for things to happen. We get Ada like in the very first episode where I believe, right, where Fitz gets to introduce to her. I think that's his first episode, right? Where she is there naked. Uh-oh, D froze.
No. I'm sorry.
Oh.
No. Is my mic on? Sorry. No, I'm listening and responding to viewer chat at the same time. So.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was later, but maybe I'm just forgetting.
Maybe it is. I'm jumping ahead. I've been living with this show for so long. I've got so many things jammed in there. But finding out, everything with Robbie and his brother being in the wheelchair, May getting infected right off the bat, seeing Coulson go, like Coulson as a monster. We don't know the answers to all these things. But again, we're not just doing setup. We are just hitting the ground running. And I love that so much. And again, they came out swinging. And again, I always keep going, why isn't anybody watching this? How was Ghost Rider not something that people were like, oh my gosh, we have to see this? I mean, they'd even already had the movies, right? So it was like, it wasn't not in the public consciousness. And Simmons and everybody not trusting each other, and S.H.I.E.L.D. being, we know there's a new boss, but we haven't met him yet. And Simmons being like cushy with this person, and everybody's relationships being kind of sketchy towards each other. You got Mac and Coulson doing their thing, and May doing her thing, and Simmons doing these power grabs that we, it's just, and Fitz is just working on the framework. It's nothing. It's not, it's just a little thing he's working on. And for a setup episode, this just blows most setup episodes out of the water. I'm done.
Indeed. Yes, this was the not naked Daisy Butt, but lingerie clad Daisy Butt episode. This is, of course, the first time they've done 10 p.m. It's the first time shift that the show has really done. It was 8 first, and then it was 9. But they're all the way up to 10 o'clock this season. That gives them a little bit more that they can do. They can push boundaries a little bit more. They can be a little sexier. They can be a little racier. You have a little bit more drinking in this. You've got her popping pills. There's more blood through this season than we've seen before. which is all things that they could do with 10 o'clock. Maybe that's why this was the best. They had a little bit of looser reins, and then they were pulled back down to push to Friday nights after. We'll get into season 5 when we get into season 5.
Well, there was the Charger, so there was a lot of racing imagery, motors revving, lots of racing.
A lot of racing imagery in that. Yes, indeed.
Rob was right, though. It was the Ada scene was this episode. I thought it was later, but he was right.
Yes. Sorry on that one as well. Don, what about yourself? What was your thoughts on episode 1?
Come on, we got Ghost Rider. You know, I mean, listen, you know, obviously you knew he was coming from the trailers and all that stuff, but to see them actually do it on TV and do it to the level where it doesn't look cheesy, you know, it damn near stands up to movie quality. You know, and then they gave him a pretty badass intro. So it's like, how could you not like that? The only thing that kind of had me a little shaky was literally the very beginning when they're chasing after Daisy, because I'm like, okay, why is she looking like super emo woman right now? And I'm sorry, Coulson no longer director.
She was going through a stage, you know. It was a phase.
Yeah, so those are the only two things that at first kind of had me like, all right, what are we doing here? But then once the story got going, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that was just a that was just a little prologue scene. It's fine. You know, Holden Ratcliffe. I mean, listen, he slowly but surely became one of my favorite characters on the show. I mean, you know, maybe because Jack Hanna is a brilliant actor, you know, because he mixes the guy who shouldn't be all of that funny based on the things that he's doing, and the delivery sometimes is just like, I'm not supposed to laugh at that, but I'm going to laugh at that because it is just absolutely hilarious. And to me, Jack Hanna is one of the few actors that can really pull things like that off. I mean, you know, loved him also in Spartacus for the seasons that he was on there. I don't know if you guys ever saw Spartacus, but Jack Hanna is the guy who owns the Gladiator School, and you know, his delivery, spot on. The Mummy movies, you know, you take him out of there, and yeah, I know I'm going on a bit of a rant, but I mean, listen, Jack Hanna as Holden Ratcliffe, for me, the only person who beat him out this season was Ian DeCastecker as far as portrayal of characters. But yeah, like I said, we get the introduction to Ada, and we have absolutely no idea. You have no idea where this is going when it first starts off. It was like, oh, okay, we're in an LMD. What could go wrong here? You know?
Does anyone remember Ultron?
Yeah, you know. So this was something. I mean, and then also, I love the fact that now you had Fitz, who for a long time he's a main character, but he just felt like he needed a big brother, like he needed a mentor, somebody to really to help him up his game. Even though he's great at what he does, his relationship with Ratcliffe, where it started off here, where you know they're sitting there working on the whole thing with the framework, and then, or at least, you know, getting the ideas of it, and then, you know, it gets introduced to Ada, and you're just like, I'm sorry, wait, what? Gemma who? Like, wait, hold your horses there, kid. You know, Gemma's still flesh and blood. This one here is an android. I don't know if you want to get all that involved just yet, but you saw the look on his face when he saw Ada for the first time. Yeah, so again, this is like Rob said, great setup for the rest of the season. They roll things out little by little. It's not all just kind of dumped in your lap and said, okay, well, yeah, here we gave you everything, so it doesn't matter what everything looks like after this. No, they took their time, and you can see that this was the beginning of the rollout. Because it set up a bunch of mysteries for us as to why certain characters are doing certain things. I mean, they broke up the band. We need to know why exactly the band broke up, and when are they going to have a reunion? Because we need a reunion too.
Exactly. All right, Corey, what about you? What were your thoughts on episode 1?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing as Will was saying, that we see from the get-go that this is not the same S.H.I.E.L.D. that we had the year before. Phil is not director, and everyone's really split apart and broken up. And it's not just because the directors assign people to different areas. There's like division among the team, which is really surprising from the get-go. I mean, I know Daisy left, but right from the beginning, we see, Phil and Mac have been trying to find her and chase her down, and they've been working so long at it that they've been pulled off the mission. And the director says, you can't do that anymore. Like, Daisy's not a priority anymore. I know you care about her, but we're trying to run an entire, spy agency. And so we have things like Phil's asking Mac to stop calling him sir. So there's kind of this like hierarchy system, and May is mad about the new color coding blue, red, green, something rainbow, whatever, and she tells Simmons, I don't have the same clearance as you. My clearance is lower. I feel less than. Like, back the clipboard. And so we see there's like this division between May and Simmons that wasn't there before, because there's a change in power structure. And then we learn why, when Simmons gets really mad, why she's been being so buddy-buddy with the new director. And she says she's been clawing for power in a close position with the director to help the rest of the team and to figure out what's going on, because they're always in the dark. So that really made me respect Simmons quite a bit, that, she's like, we may be going down, but we're not going to be like sunk. I'm going to do whatever I can to get us back together as a team. Yeah, and you find out like the director is paranoid about government-run S.H.I.E.L.D. in the past, so now they have to take lie detector tests all the time, which to me smacks a little bit of Hydra. And then you start getting there were these signs that were put up where it's like, if there's concerns, report it to the director. Like, the team that trusts is the team that triumphs. And I'm like, this is starting to feel a little bit Hydra-ish. I'm not comfortable with this. So so that in that sense that everybody's kind of breaking apart. We start at the best place when you start a story is that the chips are all down, and it becomes how are you gonna build the team back up. Other things I loved. Simmons is a sadist.
Yes.
She's the special advisor to the director in science and technology. And there's other acronyms that are even worse that he's come up with, or the new S.H.I.E.L.D. has come up with, and anyway, it really made me laugh. What else was there? Oh, let's see.
Wimp.
WIMP, the lie detector test. Yes.
Yep. And what else do we have? Oh, it was interesting that Ada is actually mimicry of human behavior. She's not AI. That's what Radcliffe says at first. So, but later on in the season, they're calling her an android. So AI, meh, but I guess that's just being picky. I like that Phil has like a new upgraded hand. He has X-ray now, so he was able to scan the van. So that was new. He didn't have that before. And later on, we're going to find out, he has a shield and all sorts of cool stuff in that hand. It's like a Swiss Army knife. Yeah, and I think that's really it. But I was just happy to see that there was that we're dealing with like the division of the team and where that's going to go. What else? Oh, Mac and Phil were playing backgammon, and I wrote here, true to form, Phil wins without sacrificing a player. So he like works the game, so he doesn't have to lose a pawn. Which I was like, that's so Phil. So that was like really spot on, writing and like prop design and everything. And we learned that everything in Lola is custom made, so that was kind of cool. Yeah, and we also learned that Robbie isn't gonna kill Daisy, like as the Ghost Rider. She thinks she deserves to die, and at the very end of that episode, he lets her live. So that just kind of leaves it open to like, oh, okay, why is he letting her live?
Sure. Well, she hasn't spilled innocent blood, and the writer only goes after those who have spilled innocent blood. She's basically been justified with every killing that she's done. So, yeah, a beautiful setup in many ways. I've already mentioned what the changes have been for the 10 p.m. time slot in with this. Now, the one thing that this season does that none of the other seasons previously have is there is no direct movie tie-in in this season. Everything is all off-world for the most part. I think it was Guardians was in the fall, or Doctor Strange in the fall, and then Guardians 2 was in the spring, if I remember. So this is, in fact, the Doctor Strange tie-in because this introduces magic to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which we haven't really dealt with before. So this is sort of their indirect tie-in, bringing in Ghost Rider, which, of course, sort of a perfect new step for the MCU and Marvel and all of that. Let's see. The title The Ghost refers, of course, to several people. We have Daisy, who is being a ghost to S.H.I.E.L.D. and is referred to. We have the Ghost Rider, of course. And then we have Lucy, who is first seen, an actual kind of ghost. Well, ghost-ish. So it's fun how the title actually gets to refer to all of our main kind of conflict points sort of right here. You could even say that Gate is in a way a ghost, as people can't refer to her yet for who she is. That's kind of a stretch, but we can go with at least the other three. You already mentioned the framework was introduced, how the team was separated, and of course that gives us our great conflict. May has just a badass team. Of course, we have Piper kind of in as her second, it seems, at that point. And we also get their little goggle setup that we have throughout the rest of the season, which allows them to tie into cameras and to see what everybody else is seeing so they don't get snuck up on. Let's see. The spectrum of security, as I believe what it is that you were looking for, the multiple colors that nobody understands how it works or what it means.
Yeah. Even at the end of the season, someone asked, like, what is blue? It was Daisy. She's like, what is blue? And they're like, nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Nobody has any idea. And of course, yeah, awesome. Just, again, the beginning of the season with awesome fights and effects. And yeah, if you're going to introduce Ghost Rider right there, full shot scene, squad interaction. Yeah, this set it on fire for me. Sorry, had to go that way. All right, perfect. Well, then let's move on to episode 2. Meet the New Boss, where we get to eventually finally meet our as yet unseen director, Jeffrey Mace. Don, we're going to let you start this one off. Episode 2, thoughts.
Patriots everywhere. The thing that I love about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is they take all of these obscure characters that you think were probably made up for the show, and then you go and look at the wiki articles, and it's like, oh wait, this is actually a character from the comic books? Holy shit. So, like Holden Ratcliffe, in comes Jeffrey Mace. That unless you are an actual comic book Marvel aficionado, you were sitting up there like, okay, who's this guy being a jerk to all of our people? But, he's got a smile on his face. He's got a smile on his face. So, it's like I don't know if I like this guy. Yeah, who you sitting there Boston Colson around? You do not look like Nick Fury at all. It's not just because he's not black. Point is, so it just was weird seeing someone boss Colson around. But at the end, it's like you knew it was like, okay, there's no way this lasts. Absolutely no way this lasts whatsoever. No. Colson is the heart of this show, and this poser, this absolute loser in his two-piece suit. No, they didn't have a vest for him. I don't know why, but yeah, I was like, yeah, this can't last long. I'm not digging how he's talking to my boy Colson. So yeah, but later on he kind of does redeem himself after being a big douchebag when you first meet him.
Yeah, Mace was a fun character to introduce there. Certainly has a nice arc himself throughout this. Corrie, what about yourself? What's your thought on episode 2 here as we, meet the new boss?
Oh, yes. I wanted to quote Tony Stark where he says, "Sometimes I want to punch you in your perfect teeth." I was just like, I was so mad. I did not like him at all. So only Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. can introduce a character that, I hate and then make me cry for him, for, 10 seasons later. Only those writers can do that. But yeah, I definitely was not a fan of Mace and how he just seemed to sweep in and be in control of everything and very, very anal retentive, like very, bureaucratic, check all the boxes, all the red tape, very caring more about the PR than about the actual mission. Not willing to let things slide. Like we really saw the difference between Phil, where he's very flexible. He'll be flexible in terms of how we get to the end goal. If we have to use somebody like Ghost Rider, he's okay with that. Whereas Mace is not okay with those kinds of calls. He's very rigid in terms of right and wrong, according to his definition of right and wrong. So that was very, very frustrating. This is the episode when we have the signs up around S.H.I.E.L.D.'s base that say, "Suspect it, report it," which again is like encouraging tattletaling. I don't know. Like, what do you... That's not going to create a team that trusts. So right off the bat, there's just a distrust towards him. And then that's echoed in all of the characters because Simmons and May and Daisy not Daisy, but Simmons and May and everyone are saying we don't trust him. That's why we're keeping a close eye on him when Daisy inquires. They have to wait 2 hours to see the director. And May's all mad. She's like, you know why he's doing this? He's just doing this because he's trying to put you in your place. I mean, May looks like my heart felt like what May was expressing on her face, which is generally not much, but that's how it felt while they were waiting. I was just waiting for her to, do something, punch somebody, please, for me. And she has that line about, it would still be your job if you'd put up half of a fight. Mm-hmm. So she's mad at Phil because he stepped down. We don't really know. I think we don't know yet why he stepped down. But I love how good Phil is with reading people that even Mace can't pull the wool over his eyes. Like Phil knows immediately going in what Mace is trying to do and how they're kind of trying to one up each other. And he says he reads through Mace's kind of all the fluff he's saying that's like the PR stuff, and Phil says, "I feel like there's a but coming, not a but an and." And Daisy's the problem because you need public trust. So he's like putting everything together, and Mace just can't pull one over him, which I loved. And then another funny line was Fitz says to Mac, "Mac, you're an engineer and a small tank." About his size. He was complaining about something. And Mac's mad that they always have to go into dark, scary places. They can't go nice places with lots of light and tropical destinations. It's like, why would you never go to brightly lit places with friendly people?
That is one of the best lines. I agree.
Yeah. It reminded me a bit of a few seasons back where Hunter was saying, "Join S.H.I.E.L.D., see exotic places, meet wonderful people, and shoot them." Right when they're being attacked.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's interesting. You kind of hit on the fact that the Mace's line starting here and continuing on, of course, is the team that trusts is the team that triumphs. Of course, there is no trust with any of the agents, both by the quizzical spectrum of security, the requests to, if you have questions, report, and obviously in a way that is because of Hydra infiltrating S.H.I.E.L.D. And in a way, I think to counter that, they're, what you're mentioning, Corey, almost doing the same thing. It is something that does carry on very well further as the pods go forward.
And also because of the Sokovia Accords, we find out that their funding has been significantly cut. And so Mace tells Phil, like, you don't have an unlimited budget anymore. Like, I have to decide, are we going to pay for bulletproof vests, or are we going to get, you a new plane? Right?
Yeah, that Mace is a political creature, as they say, versus more of a traditional agent, gives them a very different perspective on everything throughout this, and I think again increases the distance that everybody's feeling from each other. All right, well, let's see. We've got, of course, Jason O'Mara as Jeffrey Mace, doing just an amazing job. I love that guy. Mm-hmm. We're talking about the new multidimensionally powered box as Fitz is going in and researching. We get our nice Robbie and Daisy moments, both as a talk as she's trying to play the old friend, using a lot of her agent skills, and then getting turned around as Robbie tries to look for a reason to kill her. Which is kind of an interesting insight into the writer here, is he can't just do it, and Robbie isn't a murderer himself. But if he can find a reason to let the writer loose, then he doesn't have to worry about witnesses and problems. So again, it gives us conflict, but insight as well into character and motivations, which the show does great. Momentum Labs, located right here where I am in Pasadena, California. I've looked for Momentum Labs. I haven't found it. This is the first mention of the Darkhold. Also that him that did it, the mystery that there is somebody else that is behind what happened to Lucy. We get the great Daisy on top of the writer's car bit, which was all kind of fun. You've already mentioned Mac's quote. This is the mention of also Jeffrey being inhuman. Fitz's anger at Daisy starts to get revealed here, while everybody else seems to be worried. He's angry at her. We figure out why, because of turning backs.
I also saw that as sort of a reflection of his anger towards Ward as well. Like, he's been betrayed by Ward. Now he feels like he's being betrayed by Daisy.
Well, it's interesting. I never really saw Fitz's view on Daisy as necessarily betrayal, but turning her back on him. That they've all gone through stuff together. She goes through something and walks away, and it's sort of the team fractures in a way because of it. So yeah, I think that got kind of her focus on anger. That she turned her back on the team. Those are my kind of big notes on episode 2. Rob, you want to close things out with all the stuff we missed?
Well, I get to be the one who's the voice of dissent, I guess.
Yeah.
Because no, but in a weird way.
Wait,
No,
so-
I mean not like dissent, but just how perceived is that everybody else can't stand Mace. I loved him, but this is and it's all because of Jason O'Mara.
Well, yeah.
How an actor can elevate a role that you're supposed to hate. Because I know I'm supposed to not like him, but I've liked this guy for a really long time. He was excellent on The Man in the High Castle. He has voiced Batman 5 or 6 times in DC movies. I dig this guy a lot. So when he comes walking in with that big smile, I still couldn't help but love him. I was a Mace fan. I was a Mace flag waver right away. And like Rich Room was talking about in the chat about the combination of John Walker, U.S. agent. That character was pretty divisive too, but since it was Wyatt Russell playing him, I really, really sympathize. I let myself sympathize with that character a lot more than I think a lot of people did because he really felt earnest in that role. And Mace feels earnest, even if, and I love, one of the reasons I love the title of this, because it's called Meet the New Boss, but it's also a reference to the Who song where you say, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And he's very corporate. The new Shield is very corporate. You've got slogans everywhere. You got like basically posters everywhere. It's like walking into, if you've ever been in like a customer service break room and you just see all the lines and things you're supposed to say and live up to as a worker, whether you're a post office worker or a grocery store worker, all the things that they make you say and think and use in your work and how you're supposed to feel and how you're supposed to treat people. And it just feels so corporate. That's the part that bugged me. Was it Mace's, whole thing? It was the way that they were trying to sell it. I mean, they don't have any money. Phil has to schmooze. They're using Phil, he talks well, so he's the guy who's supposed to. He could get money before. Now he's a tour guide, and he's having to go around and do that for Mace, and it's got to be humiliating. But they always still find the fun here in this, and so if they had cast anybody but Jason O'Mara, I'd probably be on board with everybody else. But also, when Ghost Rider shows up, when Mac is in the chamber and Fitz is there and they can't figure out how to get him out, and Ghost Rider shows up, and Mac and Fitz's reaction to Ghost Rider is one of my favorite moments of this season because it's just like, I mean, first off, this destroys like every time something happens with Ghost Rider. Look at Mac's face; it is like his whole world is destroyed. Everything that he believes is basically just blown up because he just can't handle it. All his worst fears and beliefs and everything is just like, what is happening? And then you got Fitz, who just is like, he doesn't believe in any kind of anything but science. So he's like, what? And it's just so, it just rattles everyone. They've seen all sorts of crazy stuff, but they've never been able to put they never really get a full handle on what it is that Ghost Rider is and what it, and I just love everybody. Anytime that anybody gets their first reaction to this character, and it plays out later, we'll talk about Mac and Ghost Rider a little bit later, but I just really, really dug all that stuff. And if you watch my review for this episode, I had a problem with Daisy being on the hood of that car after being hurt so bad and how she's been shattering her bones, quaking all the time. And then she just is able to hang on like TJ Hooker to the hood of that car. I had to make the joke in my review about the TJ Hooker school for hanging on to the hoods of cars because she must have gone to that class because there's no way. I did have an issue with that. I was like, come on, man. There's got to be some believability in this insanity. But that was but I loved this episode and I love Mace. And it was, down the road, I was shedding almost tears over this. And It's just also, yeah, like Don says about bringing out obscure characters like Patriot, who's like an old. I mean, you gotta really dig back into the Captain America like backlog to find this guy and his first appearance and stuff. It's wild, like how they'll be able to find these kind of characters and do something interesting with them. And maybe it's because Marvel doesn't know what to do with them, and they're just like, find somebody. But honestly, you only live as long as you're remembered, and now everybody's going to remember the character of Patriot. So, pull those characters out of obscurity, and now they live forever. The end.
Very true. Very true. Just want to take a quick moment and say hi to a few people jumping in with the chat. We got Vic Rants, The Rich Room, and Silver Surfer, who is always here, joining us in. A lot of good notes here. Vic Rants mentions best Radcliffe line, I still quote, "That's simply not accurate," which is, I'm sorry, I can't do a John Hannah. He's too awesome. I can't do that level of awesomeness. Also, he wishes that if Nick Cage had cameoed as his Ghost Rider, it would have made a world of difference. I'm not quite in agreement with that, but I know a lot of people were hoping that he might show up. They don't have those Nick Cage dollars. Well, actually, I guess Nick Cage isn't really that expensive these days. Anyway, let's move on. Episode 3. Corey, this is Uprising. Why don't you kick us off? What's your thoughts?
Oh my goodness, so much going on in this episode. We kind of have two sort of main arcs going. We have Yo-Yo at her friend's bachelorette party, and the attack that happens with the EMP that knocks out all of the electricity for that city.
Mm-hmm.
And then we find out that the Inhuman Resistance is claiming responsibility. But later on we find out actually it's really the Watchdogs trying to kill Inhumans and blame the Inhumans. So we've got that going on, and then we have the whole May arc, right? Where May's been compromised by the ghost that walked through her, and so now she's seeing horrors everywhere she looks. Like the episode before where Phil's face started turning black and like looking like it was bleeding. That was kind of freaky. So at this point she's in a straitjacket and she's being taken away. And they find out that some of the ex-cons and members of the Asian gang that had attacked last episode that they brought into S.H.I.E.L.D., they're all going crazy. The one guy dies and they determine it's from like absolute fear and terror. His heart stops and he dies. So Simmons basically is saying, if we don't figure out a cure for this, May is going to die. And this bureaucracy rears its ugly head where Mace is like, well, we sent her off to a hospital, but I can't tell you, Phil, where it is, and I can't let you go. And I need you on another mission, which at that point I was ready to strangle his neck, not Phil's, Mace's neck. So we have just these two different scenes playing out. And let's see what else. Because the EMP is knocking everything out and you can't have access to electricity, so Phil's car can't work as soon as they enter the dead zone, right? But also his hand is attached to the wheel of the car because it's also electronic. So I wasn't sure how they got his hand off the car. I was assuming we'd see him for the rest of the episode with a wheel in his hand.
That would have been awesome.
As a weapon, right? But no, somehow they got it off. So he's going in to try to help Yo-Yo. And the really sad thing for the episode is that her friend is like inhuman phobic. And she says that Inhumans they're not normal or natural, they shouldn't exist. And even when Yo-Yo saves her friend's life, because one of the guys there takes out a knife and is threatening her at knife point, she basically just denounces Yo-Yo and leaves. And we have that short little scene with Mac asking her, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. Whatever, it happens all the time. But I saw that, anybody who's had any kind of hatred towards them, whether it's their culture or their race or their background or, where they're from or their beliefs or whatever, that kind of spoke very strongly to that with Yo-Yo and how she ends up losing a friend just because she's an inhuman. And then we finally have Mace give approval for Simmons to take May, and they go to Dr. Radcliffe, and we find out that she's having these vivid waking nightmares, and she's in a constant state of fight or fright. So they have to kill May, which was not what I was expecting to happen. And I'm like, what? We can't kill May? And Radcliffe's, oh no, just think of it like you're not killing May, you're saving her life. It's like, oh, right, which is so stressful. I'm like, please don't kill May, please don't kill May. And then of course, right when they need to shock her back so that they don't cause brain damage is when the EMP pulses and knocks everything out, so they have no electricity and they can't start up the defibrillator to start her heart. And I thought that this was when Radcliffe would reveal Ada and just bring out Ada in person to electrically zap May back to life. But he doesn't. He takes her heart out, kind of her battery source power, and plugs that into the machine. And we bring May back that way. So I thought, I guess they wanted to save Ada for a bigger reveal for more people, but that was kind of cool. What else? I love that kind of emotional moment that we have on Simmons' end. May's just confused. She's like, what happened? Simmons' like, you're alive! And she's hugging her and crying. But we don't get that much emotion from May. She's just mad. Like, you killed me? What? And then basically I love how Fitz figures out how to determine where the EMP is. I love these kinds of scenarios where you put really, really smart tech-focused individuals, and then you take away their strength, which is their tech or their electricity, and so they have to do everything old school. It reminds me of, documentaries where, pilots are flying and suddenly they lose all of their electricity control, and so they have to figure out how to land, and they're using a glass of water on the dashboard to indicate the tilt of the airplane as they're going in for a landing. So those kind of old school, simple, as Fitz says, it's simple science. Like, don't you remember? And he's using corks and, water and a needle to create a compass, essentially. So that was awesome. Interesting, the president wants to take out the Inhumans by any means necessary. Kind of reminds me of Avengers, where they're ready to bomb or nuke New York just to stop the alien attack. If you've got a nail and you need to drive it, you use a hammer, not a bazooka,
But bazookas cost a lot of money and they're flashy and people like that.
Yeah, I guess so. So, yeah, basically, I love the line where Phil's like, it would be a good light source? A guy with a flaming head. Because all the lights are out. And we learned that, with the loss of electricity, there's more looting and things like that. So obviously Ghost Rider Robbie is concerned about that, and he wants to get his brother home safely. I didn't really like Gabe's brother. His little brother, I found him a bit annoying. He reminded me of Mac's brother. And the minute he tried to blackmail Daisy, I was like, yeah, no, that's it. You're in the do not like pile. Do not bring back to the gameplay. Goodbye. Yeah, he says he'll keep Daisy's secret if she leaves Robbie alone. So he essentially blackmails her, which I was mad about, and then lies to his brother about it because Robbie comes back. It's like, hey, where is Daisy? I don't know. She left when I was asleep. You little liar.
Well, he didn't say that she told him to go before he went to sleep. So, I mean, you know, it's the truth, but not. Yeah. Okay.
So-
Well, yeah, I love the fact that they fixed May by doing the same general tech thing everybody does when their computer isn't working.
Reboot.
Turn it off, turn it back on again. Yeah, it's the perfect. Yeah, Gabe, the Robbie's brother, played by Lorenzo James Henry. People may have recognized him right at the same time. He was playing Chris Manawa on the first season of Fear the Walking Dead. He got all the way up into season 2 before he was killed. It was fun to see him on this. It's an entirely different character. What guy who plays on Fear the Walking Dead goes entirely insane. So it's kind of a nice range. I enjoyed seeing him personally, just because of that. All right, so let's see. Yeah, this is, of course, Watchdogs using the continuous EMPs, which is the little kind of hiccup in the tech that took Fitz a little while to figure out. I do love the little bit with Yo-Yo's friends, and of course we're seeing how prejudice is establishing throughout the rest of the world once they find out that she is an Inhuman. You know, sometimes they're still your friends, and sometimes, well, they were never really your friends. They were just people that you hung around with. This is the first mentioning of Uncle Eli in this episode, though we don't meet him yet. Mace and Coulson do move in a lot of very similar ways. While he's more, Mace is more political and Coulson not, their thinking is not entirely divergent, which is, I think, is the nice tete-a-tete the two of them get into. Also, the first time we get to see Senator Nadir in this episode, who is kind of, I don't know, a semi-antagonist sort of through some of the season. They're a pain in the butt, really, is what she ends up being. Let's see. We get Fitz, Coulson, and Max saving Yo-Yo. We get the nice little group fight scene there, which are always fun with the big moving camera as the actors come in and do their individual fights and the camera moves. Again, you all know how much I love single camera work and long takes through complicated action. So this always kind of turns me on. Yeah, the great line of Radcliffe, ready? And Simmons, hell no, I'm not ready. We're about to kill May.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. This is when S.H.I.E.L.D. also finally goes public. Wasn't supposed to be, but this was the way to sort of steer things out, get the public all calm with the Inhuman attacks, which are not being led by Inhumans, as you mentioned. And our post-credit scene, first of the season, which of course introduces the Senator's mysterious cocooned Inhuman brother, which ends up being sort of a dropped storyline as things go on, but we'll get into that later on. Rob, what's your thoughts on episode 3?
I think we pretty much covered everything. So I'll be real short and sweet and just say, if there was an episode I didn't really like this season, it was this one. Because it just had we were back to talking about Inhumans. I did like seeing Parminder Nagra as Nadir after being, spending years as a good guy on ER, and also on the Blacklist. I don't even know if she'd been on the Blacklist yet. It was nice to see her be a completely different character than she's ever played. But other than that, everything. Yeah, you guys already covered everything else, and I didn't really care for this one. I know I know in my review I'm much more positive, but the more we talk about it, I just kind of go like, I like all the stuff with Radcliffe and killing May to bring her back, but the rest of it, I just kind of, I know they wanted to give Yo-Yo some more to do, but I just wasn't feeling it. That's all I got.
No, totally fair, totally fair. Don, you got thoughts on episode 3?
I mean, the three of you have thoroughly gutted this episode.
Would you like to pick up the scraps? Yes.
Are there any scraps? I think you guys already even had sanitation come and pick up what was.
Okay.
Nah, listen, you know what? Listen, obviously, you know, Jeffrey Mace at this point still A1 douchebag. You know, you see him and he's trying to be a politician, and it's like, you run a spy agency. Why are you trying to be a politician? You know, but then again, I guess sometimes you got to play politics to get whatever it is that you want for the bigger picture. So, I'm trying to think what else. I mean, again, Daisy and Robbie, you know, the power couple, for lack of a better term. You know, it was fun seeing those two play off of each other. You know, you get the feeling that, okay, they're gonna you get the feeling that they are going to possibly ship these two like they did with her and Lincoln.
Mhm.
You know, just based off their interactions. But you know, I'm kind of glad that they didn't go down that route. You know, later on. But I mean, like I said, here you get kind of the first inklings of that. I mean, you know, May. It was crazy seeing what they had to do to May, kill her and bring her back. I'm like, okay. Is she gonna come back like way different? You know, or is she basically gonna be back to May again? So, you know, just to kind of see what was gonna go on with that was interesting. But then also the Watchdogs. The Watchdogs. Unfortunately, you know, every now and then the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would introduce a character or a group of characters and it hit kind of close to home a bit. And the Watchdogs were definitely, you know, they remind you of some of these militia groups that you see that are everything is about how you know, these foreign people that don't belong here are, you know, taking our jobs or whatever may have you. So just I guess we must strike back at people who have actually done nothing to us in any material way. So yeah, I mean it was definitely impactful on that end. You know, just seeing how like the lengths which they were willing to go to you know justify the terrible things that they were doing and causing more fear and panic for nothing. So yeah, that was definitely interesting. You know, about this episode and pretty much about like the entirety of this kind of arc that we got going on.
Yeah, Corey, did you have a thought?
Yeah, my one question is, if this is an EMP thing, why don't they take an older Shield vehicle send them into the hot zone? Like, why don't they take a Lola that's not an upgraded Lola? That way it won't stop working when they get an EMP pulse.
They might have once they figured out what it was. So this was the figuring out, and then Fitz called in and was like, "We've got a fix," and then they went and took care of everything else. So yeah, if they used old vehicles or something, yeah, we don't kind of get into that. The follow up, it's just the standard, and we know how to fix it going on, and then it just is just fixed.
Shield, you're slipping. Come
Yeah,
on,
yeah.
guys.
Actually, and before we move on, I did want to hit one thing with the whole May bit. This is another thing about the nice pacing. May is touched by Lucy at the end of episode 1. Episode 2, she slowly degrades. By the end, she's lost it. In episode 3, she's almost going to die, and they have to kill her and bring her back. That's the pacing stuff we're talking about. Introduced one episode, cascades the next, solved after that. So now we can take the cure that they'll work and develop will be now by the next episode and available going forward with that. So it's just a perfect example of how well all of that's done.
And the antidote is the antidote they eventually come up with is like called a case of sanity.
Yeah, well, you've got to name things interestingly. Really, it makes them more fun. All right, episode 4, Let Me Stand Next to Your Fire, which, of course, easily references the Doors song. This brings back James, our Inhuman, which was awesome. The main thing, of course, is I like to call this the Gemma Badass episode, because this is how Gemma comes back and establishes she has become kind of a badass. The episode opens up, of course, with Daisy having hacked into her and given her a beautiful, cozy, quaint, rent-controlled apartment in exchange for just a little bit of help, which is nice when you've got your new guy and you're looking for that perfect first place for the two of you. Again, just wonderful character bit between the two of them. I love how she shows up. Gemma instantly recognizes there's no one here. Something's wrong. She pulls a gun, something very much earlier season Gemmas would not have done. And this turns into a big help and then a threat because she's like, I can't do it. It's against, I'll get in trouble. What if you're threatened? She pulls a gun, or Daisy pulls a gun on her and is like, I've missed you too. I mean, it's just, there was so much kind of fun in with this episode. We do meet Uncle Eli in this episode, played by Jose Zuniga, which many people might recognize as Bull from season 5 of The Expanse, who, of course, I was describing as the evil monk, which is sort of what he looks like. It definitely sort of plays that character, I think, well through this season as well. This is when she has her big face off with May and tells her about keeping the team together that Corrie, you were mentioning all up earlier, that she has done everything she can to grab as much power to kind of hold things together, making May go from the, what are you doing? Are you too close to this person to, oh, I got to respect some of the moves that you're doing, which is a nice, again, it's a nice shift how they can keep finding these moments inside these characters that have been together for 4 years now. Is awesome. This gives us our beautiful Lola versus Ghost Rider chase, or the car chase, which was awesome. And the capture of
my car, I'm driving.
Yeah, I know. The fact that Mac thinks that he's going to get to drive was funny. Let's see. Ada mentioning to May, you can trust me with your life, Agent May, which becomes funny considering where the next pod starts to go. Let's see, we got that. Radcliffe to Fitz. You're right. When Radcliffe says to Fitz, you're right, your eyes do get all bug out when you're nervous. Which was kind of just a hilarious bit, revealing info. And Radcliffe doesn't even respond to Fritz freaking out. He's like, oh yeah, you do mention it right. That is kind of funny, which I think is awesome. Coulson literally and figuratively opens the door to the writer in this episode when he kind of has a little discussion and decides to let him out, which... Like when we're talking about making a deal with the devil, I think that was actual Coulson's line. Guess I'm going to make a deal with the devil myself. A very poignant as the season goes on to where things go. Again, beautiful writing. Eli mentions the book. It has all the knowledge that anyone would ever need. And this, of course, when Radcliffe tells Ada when it's okay to lie to perhaps save a life, to which Fitz asks, or Ada asks, whose life was Fitz saving? And Radcliffe says, why, yours, which is a very poignant beginning considering the link between Ada and Fitz. It starts right here. Let's see. Gets his thing from James. Oh yeah, Robbie gets his chains from James, pulls it out as James tries to heat it up to take out, as he reveals about his watchdog's connection. Ghost Rider and chains just go hand in hand. Did two fire dudes just walk into a warehouse full of fireworks?
Yeah.
You could have seen that one coming. Of course, and Robbie does pull James out alive, because that's what he said. You said alive, right? Which was kind of an awesome little bit. Again, Robbie does have certain levels of control. And of course, at the very end, Coulson reveals the Darkhold, mentions it, and Gemma realizes Ada is an android. First introduced to Ada, knows instantly that she's an android, and of course, she has a lie detector test tomorrow. Love setting up the next episode. Sorry, I may have covered everything right there. Rob, let's circle over to you. What's your thoughts about a return of James and Gemma being kind of a badass?
I'll just be real simple because you covered pretty much everything, and I'll just say that the whole episode was worth it to see James get his ass kicked by Ghost Rider. I don't like James, and he got it, and then we got to see the chains, the Ghost Rider chains, which I mean, I love Ghost Rider, and just getting to see any kind of like true to the character moment was really, really great, and just all the explosions, and yeah, he brings him out alive. You know, it was all really, really cool, and trying to think of anything that really needs to be brought up that I could think of, and there isn't. So, Don.
I mean, listen, this was another badass scene, obviously, for Ghost Rider. The Watchdogs are kind of put on notice just a bit, which is always a good thing. The Darkhold. I mean, when you first get introduced to it, it's one of those things where it's like, all right, we know this is bad somehow. I mean, we don't know exactly how bad, but here is the beginning of something. It's like, oh wait, even though this season didn't tie in directly with Doctor Strange, looking at that book, the first thing you think of is, oh, that looks like it comes from Carmitage. So the fact that you have this thing here, the fact that you have this thing here, and just the look of it spelling trouble again. Like I said, they did a rollout of things in this season, so you set up one or two mysteries, you knock those down, and you open up three more, and then so here comes the Darkhold. Now we're halfway through this particular arc, but it definitely opened things up. Now the fact that Simmons was able to spot Ada as an android from the jump, it's kind of like, oh wait, how did you do that? You got a bunch of other people who weren't able to figure this one out, but yet somehow, just from looking at her, and maybe it's from the years of her being around Fitz, that she was able to pick up on some of that stuff. But that was, that was kind of amazing. So, yeah.
She's just smart. That's Gemma.
She is.
She's a lie detector.
Yeah. So yeah, like I don't have much more to I don't honestly speaking have more to contribute. I think you guys have done more justice than I ever could for for this episode.
All right, fair enough. Corey, what are your thoughts on our episode here?
Just a few little thoughts. I think we've covered most of everything. I thought it was interesting. Eli refuses to give Phil any information when Phil goes to see him at the jail, but Phil isn't, worried about that, because when he comes out, I think it's Mac that says, he didn't tell you anything. Phil's like, yeah, no, but I expected that. So he's placing his cards and he's setting up his moves, and we see that so often with Phil, but it's kind of nice to see that again at the beginning of the season. I love the part where Simmons and Daisy are planning how they're going to get the information from S.H.I.E.L.D., and she just gets out of the van and walks over. Daisy's like, what is she doing? She comes back. She's like, I did it. I scored, got it. And Daisy's like, what? How did you? She's like, I'm the boss. Just the way she says, cracks me up every time. So that was great. Fitz freaking out when he sees Ada with May, like you said, Dee. And I like how he mentions that May is the perfect Turing test for Ada to see if she'll pass, because nobody's more robotic than May. So if May doesn't think that Ada's a robot, it's all good. We're good. And as you mentioned, that little question of Ada asking what was Fitz lying for and who was he saving, and it was her. Is that the start of her falling for Fitz or forming some kind of a romantic sort of obsession with him? Also the fact that if he's saving her life, he's doing something similar to her own programming, because she's been programmed to be a decoy that saves other agents' lives. So maybe she's like, oh, you're my match in heaven. I'll go after you with a vengeance, and if you don't want me, I will make you want me. And it gets dark pretty quick. Let's just say, don't do that to people or androids. Not a good thing. What else? Also, Ada is modeled after Ratcliffe's wife, and we don't find that out till like way later. I think the end of the season, but it's neat to look back and realize, oh, Ada is basically a copy of what his wife looked like, and then how does that color everything for this season, and how kind of protective he is of her. And that could just be because he's the inventor with his creation, but it's also the embodiment, and it talks like his wife who's died. So, read what you want into that. And then the last quote I thought was funny was Phil says, well, I guess we'll just fight fire with fire, when they headed to the the fireworks place. And the line you said, Dee, about two guys that control fire going into fireworks place, it's basically the setup for a perfect joke. So that's it. That's all I have.
Excellent. Also want to mention Vic Rance mentioning here in the chat, loving how Ada says that Fitz gave her hands, and Coulson is like, oh, a fellow amputee, which I thought was just sort of an awesome sort of joke, but right, and then twist, and then she picked that right up. Oh, I've been like this since I was born, or I've always been this way. Was just kind of a perfect little play. I thought that was really fun. All right, so we're about halfway through our season now. Let's keep things going with L. All right, so we're going to start again here with Rob, episode 5, Lockup, or the prison riot episode, depending on how you want to look at it. What were your thoughts on this one, Rob?
This one was a lot of fun. I mean, you get to drop everybody into a prison with a bunch of bad guys, so you don't got to feel too bad about what you do down there. You get to see Robbie as part of the team, and that's gonna be have issues. I mean, he's already wanting off the plane. I do like when Daisy points out though that if you get off the plane now, you're gonna end up in rural Utah, and if you think you're pissed off right now, then wait till you land in rural Utah. We get to see Phil's shield, which I had forgotten about, and I must have one. I must have one. I'm not kidding. I cannot die without getting a replica of Phil's shield. The way that they try to get in and finding and how they find out that the whole place has been infected is really great. And I just that's all I'm really going to touch on. I'll leave some stuff for everybody else. Robbie finding out more about himself and how everything went down, and with dealing with the watchdogs and the people in the prison, I thought it's all just really, really cool stuff. More with the dark hold and the deer. This is a pretty sweet episode. The death that I really wanted to see, but they pull away from in the cell. I wish I could have seen that, since we were getting more violence in this season with the time slot. I felt a little gypped, but I got the point anyway. And I mean, knowing what was going to happen to that guy was all I really needed to see. You don't have to see everything, I guess, but it's pretty good. I like this episode.
All right, fair enough. John, thoughts on Lockup?
Prison. Not a nice place to visit, and you definitely wouldn't want to live there. And especially when someone, sends a man with a flaming skull to torture you. So, look, obviously, this was a pretty different episode for Agents, just based off of the scenery. This kind of reminded me a little bit of Watchmen, when Night Owl and Silk Spectre go to break out Rorschach, so you get your nice little hallway fights, of course. Yeah, but the thing about it is, it's like, wait, what in the world is wrong with that little girl? What in the world is wrong with Lucy that she is just causing all of this chaos? And then it's like, okay, can you please stop talking in riddles? For the love of God, I don't know what you're talking about. When you do talk, half the time she doesn't talk, but when she does, it's like, why? I can see why they wanted to lock you away. Okay, I know that's wrong to say about kids, but still, kids, don't be weird. All right, I mean, a little weird, but not that weird. Okay, not where you're starting prison riots. But again, I don't understand how in the world Jeffrey Mace, like at this point, right, in the story, I'm still wondering, how is it that Mr. Jeffrey Mace, who seems to always put his foot in his mouth, is supposedly in charge? How? He should be called the progenitor of hoof and mouth disease, because he always puts his foot in his mouth. And yet somehow he thinks he's calling the shots. And it's right around this time when he starts to figure out that he doesn't really have the power that he thinks he has. And I love it, because he's trying to exert himself, and they're just, at this point have had enough of him. And it's just like, okay, yeah, that was nice. Okay, director, we're going to do exactly what you say. Yeah. So, I mean, I think you can't get more rebellious than engaging in a prison riot if you're supposed to be undercover agents. So, very, very interesting episode. But the whole thing with them trying to blackmail Mace later on with the fake Ghost Rider footage, I was like, oh man, talk about stooping low. Like, yeah, Shield just became an official government sanctioned agency, like, to the public, and now you're sitting here, forging stuff because yes, everyone knows Daisy is an inhuman at this point, but now you bring in Ghost Rider and it's like, oh, this is going to look extra screwy because yeah, it looks like you have a damn demon on your force. So yeah, Agent Nadir, your comeuppance, your comeuppance. So sweet.
Okay, I guess. Okay, I'm up. All right.
Yep, you're up,
I'm
Troy. Sorry,
up. Okay.
Up.
I was like, okay, yep, it was a good comeuppance. I'm waiting for Will to say something else, but no, he's done. Okay, lock up. What did I have? I was shocked, or not shocked, but just surprised that the opening scene, we have Lucy talking about what if we had spent all those years and we actually did the work instead of looking for shortcuts. So they're scientists, but they're like the scientists that got their degree by faking the results and or cheating on all their tests, essentially, because they don't want to do the hard work to get the results. They're just taking shortcuts, which I'm like, well, that's morally questionable right off the get-go. So anything they're doing is going to be problematic. This is not good. I like the conversation that May and Daisy have near the end where May says, distancing yourself from everyone so that they don't drown in your wake. I invented that move. It doesn't work for one simple reason. Phil Coulson. He found me in that cubicle and dragged me out. He never gave up on me. You don't get to choose who cares about you. And Coulson, he has a bigger heart than most. Lincoln wouldn't want you killing yourself over what happened. So that was one of my favorite kind of bits. Like May doesn't talk a lot, but when she does, it's really good. So that was great. I love when she shoots the one guard with the antidote and he's like, oh, on the ground. She's like, stop whining. I saved your life. Stop whining. So that was great. I love we find out what she saw when she died because Phil keeps bugging her about it. And then they end up going through, it was kind of like a trash chute or something into the kitchen. Just made me think of Star Wars and trash compactor. Anyway, they fall through and she's like, you really want to know what I saw there just to keep you quiet? Fine, it was you. I saw you. So you don't get a big head about it. So that was cute. I liked that. Anything else? The antidote, as I said previously, is called Cases of Sanity. And then the whole Mace and Simmons thing, where Mace interrupts her lie detector test, where it's saying that she's lying. We know she's caught, and he just comes in and is like, hey, Agent Simmons, can I trust you? Yes. Okay, come with me. And then he wants her to feed him facts about things for a TV interview. And I'm going, didn't you have this plan beforehand? You know, and it's within 15 minutes she has to prepare it. And I'm thinking, why doesn't he have Simmons do the talking? Because she's the science expert. So then just be like, hi, I'm the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I'd like to introduce you to our science expert, Dr. Gemma Simmons. She'll be answering your questions about whatever. Anyway, that was my main question. Why doesn't he just let Simmons talk? It would be so much easier.
Because foot must go in mouth.
It's the spectrum of security. You know, the light wasn't in the... Yeah, well, that shows how they are.
Yeah. So that was kind of my... And then how did Nadir know that S.H.I.E.L.D. had compromised the prison so quickly? She must have had people on the inside.
Well, the watchdogs are recruiting through the human. Anyway, we will get into those actual connections, but you're right. That does raise a question, which they do actually will answer down the road in a way, which is kind of nice.
And then we end with Daisy saying after this mission, she's gone, which is quite sad. So.
Yeah, but you're never really gone from this show
till
after season 7.
Phil will drag you back by your bones if he has to. You'll be a dead skeleton and he'll still be trying to recruit you.
Yes. All right. So episode 5 kicks off with back in the day. I love how that is something that they use for the next couple of episodes for time references, which is what I always usually forward to. Way back in what could only be called the day. Of course, we have them first finding the Darkhold, and this is our Johnny Blaze reference. You have the carnival poster in the background. You see his black jacket. They move in order to pull up the book and take a look through it initially. There are a lot of different Easter eggs. Vic Rant's here in the chat mentioning that whole lot of little bits of ones throughout this for our Johnny Blaze fans. Of course, Lucy can't read the book again. She's not corporeal enough, so I guess the book can't read her. You mentioned the Coulson and the whole wanting to know what May saw when she died, because Coulson with Tahiti can't remember anything. He can't trust any memories that he has. So this kind of feeds a lot of their connection going forward, and for pluses and minuses. They'll start what he mentioned. We'll get t-shirts. We'll start a club, I think is something that he mentions. I do want to go into the Gemma Simmons lie detector bit that you just talked about, Corey, because look, Elizabeth Henstridge is awesome. If you don't believe that through watching the show, she directed one of its better episodes in season 7, of course, as I have always been, which was amazing and emotional and perfect in many ways. But as an actress, she brings something very beautiful to this scene. Throughout the beginning, she's talking with Fitz about being concerned that she is going to have to lie, that there are micro expressions that happen. There's 272, or there's a whole bunch that she goes into and names a few afterwards. The one, of course, they're talking about is a subtle dart to the left of your eye. He brings up a couple of times. And in fact, when she says that she's going to go through it, Fitz tries to give her a heads up, says, "Ha, no dart to the eye to the left. I totally believed it." When, of course, she wasn't really one of those lie things. It was, I'm just trying to do what I can. But I'm bringing all of that up because when she does her lie detector test, when she lies, she does very subtly and quickly her eyes dart to the left. This is an intentional acting choice. Because, of course, as an actor, everything you say is a lie. It's the truth to your character and so on. But this is a choice that she does to do a quick little. In fact, it's smaller than that. It's super tiny. You've got to look at it. But she does that to illustrate that she does, in fact, lie. Now, when we see it later on, when Mace lies on camera and she sources that out, he doesn't art to the left, and I'm not harping on Jason Nomura as an actor. I don't think this was intentional for the choice. She mentions things like art to the left, a furrowed brow, or this. We can just assume that he does something, and the camera is on her reaction through most of those moments anyway. And we see that he's lying from her response to it. But it's just one of those little things I noticed watching it that just impressed the hell out of me, because this is not something that needed to be done in any way, and you can barely pick it up unless you're really paying attention. But it's an intentional choice of a micro eye dart to the left when she lies. It's just one of those things that just makes me love this show so much more, that you have people that are putting this level of work into a weekly television show. Is just awesome. There is more stuff into the episode. You guys hit on through most of it. Let's just move on to episode 6. I think that rants enough on the awesomeness of that episode, which is, of course, The Good Samaritan. And we'll help that off with our Good Samaritan, Agent Williams. Don, why don't you kick things off here for us?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that Johnny Blaze? Holy shit.
Origin story!
So, yeah, we get the origin story of our guy, Robbie Reyes. How he became the Ghost Rider. And look, for many people, they were probably, they were probably thinking, okay, well, we're not going to get any more references to Johnny Blaze, yada yada yada, and then he steps on screen. Not for a very long time. It wasn't Nicolas Cage, which some people probably would have enjoyed. But the fact that they had anything was, I'm like, oh wow, So yeah, it was definitely good to see them, give us that backstory for Robbie, deepen the character history, and then showed his kind of connection to the Darkhold and his apprehension and wanting to kind of go forward with any of it. But then also we get ghostwriting Coulson. I'm sorry. Wait, how does the Spirit of Vengeance just decide it's going to pick a new host for a little while? And especially, well, not just pick new host for a little while, but I'm sorry, like Coulson, Ghost Rider, Powers. How? Why? I want more. Yeah. So, I don't even have much more to say. Other Ghost Rider, lots of Ghost Rider.
Right?
There isn't much more that you need to say there, really. Corrie, what about yourself? What's your thoughts on our Good Samaritan kind of origin story? Plus,
Geese. We have 0 geese. We are goose free. My favorite lines.
God, I love Phil.
I just want to adopt him and like keep him forever. He's great. Oh dear. The origin story, not much to say on that per se. On the actual episode itself, I liked the kind of Phil versus Mace that we got for this episode, and how it's not a traditional trying to one up each other. And Phil is just so confident in having been director and knowing what Mace is dealing with now as director and the struggles he's going through. There's no sort of condemnation towards Mace. He really is just trying to explain and justify his choices and then try to get Mace on his side, which I really liked that approach. And he's using Star Wars references, or both of them are using Star Wars references to explain how they feel in the situation, which was absolutely perfectly geeky. I loved that. Phil sees himself as an Admiral Akbar and not as a Han Solo. So that was awesome. Mace, again, when he finds Daisy and Robbie and he wants to charge them and he really doesn't care about the threat with Lucy or the whole, like the fact that she has this powerful book that could destroy the entire world, it was very frustrating because it was just Mace being so stubborn and digging his heels in and being so focused on the like logistics, what's technically right, instead of just being a little bit more flexible like Phil would be. So I was like, he's being a total jerk. I have that written in my notes. Note, Mace is a jerk. The Isodyne reference, again, we had that with the Peggy Carter show. She encountered it in the 1940s, the whole zero matter and the dark force. So this is referencing directly to Agent Carter, which I thought was great. Isodyne was acquired by Roxxon, which again, we saw in Agent Carter. Yeah, I love that Gabe's name is short for Gabriel. And one of the characters says, oh, like the angel, because he thinks Robbie is Gabe for a moment. And Robbie's like, no, I'm the other one. So he's the fallen angel. But I don't think Gabe was very much angelic either. He was blackmailing people. So both of them had issues. I love that Phil gives May the Darkhold and he says, "You're the only one I trust, so get rid of this book." So all the time, every episode, if they're in a tight squeeze, Phil always turns to May. She's his like right-hand woman. And then I was just surprised that Eli, again, we see Eli as the bad guy, because as Will was saying at the beginning of this episode, he's being portrayed as the good guy. He's the one that has all the concerns. He's like, you really shouldn't be using this book. It's very dangerous. He's asking all the questions. And then by the end, we see that actually he's the mastermind behind everything. And Robbie has a comment about there are consequences for playing God. So even though he's the Ghost Rider, he even sees that there's a problem with what Eli's doing, and he's trying to tell Eli, like, you can't do this. It's going to have really bad repercussions. So that's that's it. And Simmons was kidnapped to work on Nadir's brother, which also made me really mad at Mace.
Yeah. Here's a nice bag to put over your head. I have a coffee.
Yeah.
Again, a great origin story for the Robbie Reyes version of Ghost Rider. It's emotional. I thought Gabriel Luna played this all really well. It was very tight little moments between the two actors. I loved the slow-mo shot of Robbie flying out of the car as he's twisting and falling. He's talking about, I prayed to God, I prayed to the universe, I prayed to anybody that would listen that I could get my revenge. And it was just, again, I talk about Mark Kolpak and Fuse FX's job on the show all the time because they're freaking awesome. And they just won an award too for season 7, which is great for them. But just a beautiful flying slow motion shot of pain and loss and so much sold by Gabriel Luna right there. To me, it was just one of those beautiful little shots that just totally says it. Yes, we get our Johnny Blaze cameo in this, though. Yeah, I'm glad that it wasn't Nick Cage. I'm glad the fact that we don't even see it outside of just the flaming skull. And we, as audience members, get to fill in all the blanks in that. That is the perfect subtleness of storytelling. Nobody else needs to know. If you're unfamiliar with Johnny Blaze, oh, it's some other writer that gave him the power. Perfect. That's all that you need to know. Totally acceptable. Barbaro, I will have to look it up. I retweeted it if you check my Twitter feed. I can't remember which award that Mark just left. If I can research in between, I'll let you guys know. Let's see. Coulson, gives it to May. Again, we're establishing the strong connection between these two characters. Not only have we already had it, but he's the one to trust. Now they've both died and come back. There's much going on. We get our rocks on. Through this. I love how Fitz is struggling through half the episode just to get signatures to find out the information on this stuff. I love how that just frustrating bureaucracy is in the way. That Eli is the bad guy as revealed in this episode. And I love the fact that he's the villain without having read the book. He doesn't read the book until Lucy brings it to him, because you can tell on his face that he's finally got it. But the fact that he obsessed with it, seeing the results and wanting that, I think is a better arc because he's not corrupted. He chose his own corruption, and it gives him, I think, a better arc within this. Again, less of a victim and more of a intentional perpetrator. Which, look, I think sometimes you need good villains that are actually villains and not just heroes waiting to be repented, which is something a lot of these shows kind of get into too much. Sometimes you just need villains. That's it. I know there's a lot of stuff. This was kind of fun. I love the face-off between Mace and Ghost Rider. The fact that you can't contain the Rider. even in the stuff that you say can contain anyone, I think is awesome. Rob, thoughts on this one?
Yeah, the him breaking out of the containment module is freaking amazing. Because it's just not, it's supposed to be impossible. Nothing's getting out of there. We've never seen anything do anything to those things. Those things are freaking amazing. And he just eventually breaks right through it. I did really like, there was the, Mace asking if Ghost Rider's inhuman when he sees him change, and Coulson saying he made a deal with the devil, and Fitz is like, that's nonsense, but Coulson's like, well, the flaming skull and everything else kind of says a little bit leaning towards Hail Satan, so I don't know about that. But one thing, and I want to bring up the another person in this, because I'm Mr. IMDb. And that's Kerr Smith in this episode is Joseph Bauer, the guy, one of the other scientists. I think it was the one girl's, the original guy that got the Darkhold. Kerr Smith I never see him in anything. He goes all the way back to Dawson's Creek. He was one of the characters in actors in Final Destination. And he's the one that put the hit out that was supposed to kill Eli and ended up hurting, Gabe. And so it was kind of like, I like that all this kind of started with all that, just regular people making really bad choices, and how this affects Gabe and Robbie and Eli and all the road that they all go down, and leading to that moment on the bridge with the Ghost Rider, which I'm glad they didn't show who it was. I just wanted to see more of the flaming skull. I don't really care who's underneath it. And again, yes, the award for, I don't care what award show it was, they made the right choice. I don't care if it's some guy in the corner just going, I'm giving out awards today, and today I'm giving out an award to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for best, special effects. And even if you're fucking in no one, I don't care, because it deserves it. And that's pretty much all I have for this one too. I mean, let's move on.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, well then there is. Sorry, I was just going through my Twitter feed to see if I could pull up. Yeah, there it is. I'll have to find it again. Corrie, why don't you lead us off with our penultimate episode tonight? And that is episode 7, Deals with Our Devils. Yep, you're on mute.
Thank you. Forgot. So we open this episode, and Eli is now able to create matter from nothing. Well, Fitz would argue it's not from nothing, it's stealing from another dimension, but he's able to create matter, and he's just killed 3 agents by stabbing them through the chest. Not a good start, at least for the agents. Not a start at all. We have Mac leaving on the motorcycle for no reason or purpose. He just takes off. Daisy's calling after him like, Mac, where are you going? What? Come back, right? And we find out later that Ghost Rider has gone into Mac, and so Mac is now chasing down Eli for vengeance and whatnot. What else? Fitz realizes that Mace is working with Senator Nadine. And then they find out, they're trying to figure out where is Simmons, and they realize she doesn't have a tracker, so they have no idea where she is. And it really feels like season 1 level work. Like, why didn't you have a tracker for Simmons? Why didn't you think that maybe the people you were blackmailed into working with might, do something bad and you would need to pull Simmons out? Like, I don't understand. I love that we get to see the episode from 2 different perspectives. So we see it from the people who are alive and just like, what happened to Phil? Oh no, are they dead? And then we see it again from like the ghosted people's perspective, Robbie, Phil, and Fitz. And it makes for some great humor because, you know, they're commenting on what's going on, but nobody can hear them. So we have, you know, Coulson is glad that Max listens to him about the Darkhold. And he's like, finally, someone who listens to what I said. Because May wanted to open the Darkhold, right? So that was great. And that's, we have Dr. Radcliffe and Ada are at S.H.I.E.L.D. Working. And that's when May gives them the Darkhold and wants them to open it and read it. I love that when Ada offers to open the book and read the book and we see her reading it, it's all in code. It's ones and zeros. It's binary because she's a computer. So, of course, it's going to be like 0110011. It's not going to be English. So that was great. We also have a reference to hope, which when you were currently watching the episode as it aired, you didn't really know Hope was a person. But once you've seen the episode and seen all the seasons, now you realize that Hope, like when he says he's lost hope, he's actually talking about his daughter Hope. But it also works that he's lost hope because he lost his daughter. And so we see that there's a lot of pain and anger in Mac. And even though the Ghost Rider can't use Mac for vengeance because Robbie has a line or something about Mac's a good man, you can't use him like you use me. And Ghost Rider says something like, yes, but I can still feed on his pain or something. So he's using that. And so we see how broken Mac is. And it's interesting that Daisy is the one that comes to rescue him. And she sees how broken he is. And when he's kind of in that controlled daze before the Ghost Rider leaves him. And so it's nice that Daisy gets to see that kind of broken side of Mac because he's already seen her after what happened with Hive and how forgiving Mac was to her. And he's like, you're my partner, I stick with you. So it's nice to have that other side of the coin where Daisy's like, you're my partner, I stick with you, to Mac. We find out that Phil had to step down. And then Phil finds out from Fitz that the director has betrayed Simmons and she's off somewhere. I liked the line where Robbie's riding with Daisy in the Charger, and she's scraping the side of the car. She's like, "It's okay, it's a self-healing car." He's like, "Yeah, that only works when I'm the Ghost Rider." Oh, he's cringing as she's wrecking the car, and he's trying to get her to turn left, and she can't hear him, right? So he has that line where he's like, "Atta girl," when she goes the right way. So I liked all those little funny like moments where you can feel the frustration of the characters who are ghosts that are trying to communicate and they can't. And then Fitz charges in super angry that Mace took Simmons. I wish that he had just punched Mace at that point. I was like, if it was me, I would have punched Mace, but I guess Fitz has more self-control. And then we just end with the episode with Mac looking at the picture of Hope. And that's the point when we realize Hope's a person, not like a concept. Yeah. So, and then Robbie comes back through the dimension. So
yeah,
those are the kind of cool points that I picked up on for the episode.
Yeah, I think that the two perspective storytelling through this episode worked out really well. I know we're getting a little late here, and some people had some things to do. Don, you had an appointment this evening, right? Am I keeping you late, or do you got to take off?
I actually will need to take off myself, but I did want to say, thank you as always for having me. You guys are awesome. This has been, amazing. I can't wait until we do part 2 of this to discuss this more. And I just realized, wait, I jumped 2 episodes ahead with Ghost Rider Coulson. Sorry, I got so excited about Ghost Rider and everything Ghost Rider that just kind of merged everything together. So yeah, don't do that one, kids. Don't do that.
You merge the multiverses.
Well,
We're crossing streams.
We will be back for our LMD pod next week. So Don will be back next week. Thanks for sticking with us. We'll go a little bit faster next time. We'll keep you from your stuff, Don. But thank you so much, and we will catch you. We'll catch you next week. All right. So let's get on then to let's keep our talking about our deals with the devils. My couple of little notes in through here. Let's see. Eli's killing people. He's doing a thing. No. Oh yes, the fact that everybody is just giving up on that Fitz and Coulson are dead,
Except for Daisy.
and Daisy's the one like, this is S.H.I.E.L.D. Impossible things happen all the time.
Because Phil never gave up on her, so full circle.
And we even have that later on when May is talking about that. Look, I know when people are dead, I don't feel that now. You know, we really start getting into a lot of those more subtle connections and communications. I love that Radcliffe chooses to resist the Darkhold. To me, this nails him as a heroic character. He knows that this is too dangerous. What does he say? If the internet is a fire hose, this is Niagara Falls. Or as a garden hose, this is Niagara Falls. The fact that that he recognized it instantly is perfect. This is, of course, Fitz choosing to do whatever he needs to do to get back to Gemma. Do I have to make a deal with the devil myself? Fine. Do I have to make a robot read the Darkhold? Fine. Fitz is able to connect, and we see through this episode how love is a form of connection. While Robbie and Daisy can kind of connect, it's really through the car, which is what Robbie says. I love this car because the car turns its turn signal on when he hits it or something like that, which is great. We have, of course, obviously, Phil can connect up with May because of their connection. And here we're seeing that there is a connection forming between Fitz and Ada, who can hear him across the dimensional divide and hear the thoughts, perhaps I should read the book. A very fateful choice, which Fitz does say, I hope I don't regret this. I hope this wasn't a big mistake. And of course, look, it saves their lives right now, and that's what was important. As Radcliffe says, my favorite line of the episodes, I'm building an interdimensional portal with an android I created. I could die happy.
Bad choice of words.
You know, and he kind of gets his wish in all of that. There is a camera shot when they shift between the dark dimension and the real world, where you see Ada building all of the little laser stuff, and then it pans over, and of course she's not doing anything, and May's like, is she doing anything? I don't get. It's just such a beautiful shift perspective shot of one dimension, another dimension, what you see on this side of the door versus what you see on this side of the door. I thought was just really, really cool. Also, this is where we're seeing Gemma, who in season 2, very much not pro-Inhuman, here the most compassionate connection to an Inhuman, kicking all the scientists out. He's scared, using the lights, comforting and talking and relaxing. I thought, again, beautiful shift for character. Rob, what about your thoughts on our penultimate episode of this pod?
I mean, one of the strongest parts of this is the storytelling and how they chose to make this episode and do something really interesting with it and not know what's happening and have, and then when you do understand, like when you get the context of everything, like Mac driving away and why and all that, it just made the episode so much better. And I love when you've got a show that could, kind of runs like a procedural a little bit in some terms, when they decide to tell the stories differently, when they take chances like that. I really appreciate it. It shows that the writers are always trying to not just do the same old thing. They're trying to give us surprises and things like that. I loved the Ghost Rider feeding off of Mac, using his pain, saying like the conflict of maybe not even leaving Mac. Like I can stay here and feed off of his pain forever. Like I don't need you to come back. The whole storyline of them not being there but being there was just really really fun. So much to mine from in this episode with that kind of storyline. Ada doing the Doctor Strange stuff. Like just I was you're right. This doesn't have an exact movie tie-in, but with the Darkhold and all the ways that they're dealing with magic, it's totally this first part is totally dealing with stuff that would end up being parts of WandaVision later, where they're really doing a lot. They're really taking chances in this first pod that they've never taken before. And it's just, again, one of the reasons why it's the best season. And you started with the thing about how he could die happy because he's, made this interdimensional gateway, and May's response to, well, you put our faith in a robot who hears ghosts. So if it fails, you might die quickly. So this again, all the great humor that shouldn't work in serious situations just really breaks the tension properly, and again, May doesn't talk very often, and when she does, she can lift you up, she can cut you down, and she can also rip a great dark gallows humor joke out of nowhere, like with the best of them. Trying to think of anything else here. No, I think that's about it.
Yeah. There's a couple little lines I forgot to mention out. One, my favorite from Coulson of, wait, what are they doing? Do we look that stupid on comms? I mean, come on. That is so perfect. That is so perfect. Because they're always cutting away, of course. That's the thing. This is our first mention of the bottle of Hague that Phil and May are supposed to crack open. What the hell were we waiting for? She keeps saying. So again, it's the death and the dying and the coming back. It is this really, it just such further connects these two characters. I thought that was great.
Which is actually quite common when people have life-threatening sort of encounters, or nearly have a car accident. Sometimes they reconsider. Okay, let's use the good china. Let's go on that trip we always wanted to go on. Let's eat that chocolate cake.
It does put things in perspective. Indeed. Oh, and of course the last one where Ada is talking about that she is supposed to be the shield, and Radcliffe cuts her off. Stop, Ada, you're developing a catchphrase. That was perfect.
You're on mute, man.
Yeah, you're on mute.
Was I on mute the whole time or just now?
Right when you said catchphrase.
Oh,
and then
okay.
it muted for some reason.
See, it doesn't want me having a catchphrase either. I'm Hydra gods, please let this show continue. All right, and let's wrap things up. We have our final episode of this pod, episode 8, The Laws of Inferno Dynamics. Which, of course, our big summation, our capture of Uncle Eli, our goodbye, for the moment at least, to Ghost Rider. You've got Eli building a giant battery. The small version is what he kept his friends in. This is a giant super life-size version with the nuclear bomb in it. His abilities to create elements and things have gone far. And, of course, as he shows Robbie later on, he can do water now, which is a compound molecule, multiple elements contained within. Let's see. Mace learns about Ada being an android. Let's see. This is also the last time that real May and Coulson see each other as she jumps onto the airplane. So a lot of interesting little moments. Ada gets shot and feels pain. An interesting programming choice. It was just to be able to simulate death. I love how she even says it. Oh, don't worry, I'll wound. The blood is just for show. I was supposed to simulate. But that means I also experience the pain, which, again, is a new experience for her. And now with the Darkhold information starting to bubble within, she's got that. In fact, I love that the last episode actually ended with Radcliffe playing on his guitar, "I saved the day, I saved the day," as we pan back, and then we see Ada now with those gloves making a brain, which we catch on by the end of this. Now, let's give one up for Agent Nathanson. Yeah, he was kind of a political nobody. He was the red shirt of the season. He just kept being asked to leave the room. And he's dead. He is, of course, who Ada takes out with the line, having been shot, "I'm sorry, I know what this feels like," and then breaks his neck. I don't think he felt anything for that long. I think that was a different experience.
I don't think that makes it still cool. So your story doesn't make that okay.
No. Let's see. Oh, also, this is where we get Phil implying to Daisy that yes, he wanted it he thought an Inhuman should lead S.H.I.E.L.D., just not that particular Inhuman. For those, of course, comic nerds know that Quake was director of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a long time, and in fact, in the comics, I believe brings Phil Coulson in. I think they've got kind of a reversal there in that, but I'm not familiar with that particular area of the run.
And she has that line, maybe in the comics.
Yeah, maybe the comic book version, which I thought was great. Rob, do you got any thoughts here on our final face-off between Uncle Eli and Ghost Rider?
I mean, there's a lot to say about this episode, I guess, but I'm going to try to keep it concise. But when Mace's comment, you brought up him fighting about Ada, and how he just kind of quickly just throws out there that never mind that I was mildly attracted to her.
Yes.
Also, it like Loki always pretending to be somewhere. We have Coulson doing his thing where people keep falling for him coming in and letting you tell your story, and him planning the whole time something else is about to happen to you. Anytime you let Phil lets the bad guy monologue, it's just a ruse to get them to not know what real bad thing is about to happen to them. And it never gets old. It never gets old. Just like whenever you think Loki's there, he's not, unless they fool him, like in Ragnarok where he was, like all those little tricks that they do. And while they may, like people say that the MCU and other things are predictable, they still find new ways to do these things that still make it satisfying. Unlike bad running jokes, like that, where they just keep going to the same well with barely a change in the punchline. When Eli meets Ghost Rider, again, I just love everybody's real reaction to, oh shit, this is what I'm, he didn't grasp it. He still didn't know what Robbie really was and could do and what was possible. He was the big man. He was the one who's like, he felt like he was the one with all the power, and he finds out way too late. And when he gets that look on his face, when he's face to face with the rider, and it's just like, oh no, I've made some mistakes in my life. But this also had, like when Daisy jumps into the air with all the energy, and releases it. Just such a great shot. Another visual effect that's just so freaking amazing. It just takes you, like, you feel the cinematic quality of all this stuff on a TV show that they can't pull off on almost any other big superhero show that has all sorts of visual effects. They all, like, so many of them still look really, really just fake. You feel like you're not really looking at something real. And even though you know that those kind of shots aren't real, the way that they pull these off, they suck you in so hard that you don't care that what you're seeing isn't real, because they make you feel like it's real. They really do a good job of fooling you with these things like that. And it's just so great. And again, I want to talk about Yo-Yo real quick and how much she loves to use her powers. And how it bites her in the butt this episode, but then comes back with it by the end of it. They all fall for that trap. It's a very intense scene. The slow motion of it all, seeing the trap get sprung and no one knowing until it's too late. And then in the end, how she gets to be the one that just does a Quicksilver and just moves everything around. Coulson's there like he's already got the gun in his hand, but he knows that there's about to be one. The full trust that Coulson has in his people.
Yeah.
And all these people that just they always underestimate our SHIELD agents. And it's why, I sent you a message not too long ago, and I still want to do this, about how our agents of SHIELD have done so much, just as much and possibly more to save the world than even the Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just people. And one of the things that, I hammer this home probably maybe too much, but like, most people don't want to watch a show that's not about superheroes. They don't think that the humans are interesting. And then when you finally get somebody who makes themselves sit down and watch this show, they're kicking themselves for not watching it sooner.
Yep.
The superheroes and the supernatural stuff that goes on around this show, and yeah, Daisy's a hero, but she was not always someone with powers, and she never forgets where she came from.
Mm-hmm.
And
she used to just be a person who was breaking into computers.
And May says,
maybe I'm off topic a little bit, but since this is the last episode of this pod, I just wanted to get that out there, because all the things that we love, like this could have been, I was thinking about pods, and I was thinking about how some shows only have 8 episodes. And if this was the end of an 8-episode season, this would have been perfect. This is how you do 8 episodes. This is how you break shows up, and then how you end it. How you end it with, revealing May being an LMD. How you reveal the brain being worked on. And then you get people wanting to come back, and then you do another 8 episodes, or however you did it. Mm-hmm. There's also the last Ghost Rider comment about how Robbie's gone, but the comment of, well, the last Ghost Rider showed back up again. So, and that's also more into other things that could possibly happen someday down the line. Maybe I'm just wishing, hopeful, thinking about the Ghost Rider curse and how it doesn't really go away. You might not be, people might think you're dead, but maybe you're not, depending on who wants to write that story. But yeah, also I wanted to briefly mention how at first, and it's just a statement, is how Radcliffe first reaction to the Darkhold was like, but how it was all just a perfect ruse because he really, really wanted it. So he had to play off like he totally didn't want it. But really, he had no intention of not using, like he really did. Once we see him later with the Darkhold, that he was just trying to pull everybody off his scent, which gives, and again, John Hannah such a good part in this show. Who, like Don said, has become one of my favorite characters, and such a great arc for this character as we see over the rest of the season, and how good he was in his introduction in season 3. And I think I'm done, and I'll pass it over to everybody else.
Oh, I want to jump in here real quick, Corey. It was the Australian Effects and Animation Award, Bronze Award, that Fuse Effects, Mark Kolpak's company, just won their first international award. So they were very happy about that. So I wanted to toss that in real quick. All right, Corey, thoughts?
Oh, thoughts. Okay. Well, some of the stuff's already been discussed, so I'll skip over that. I know you're talking about how Daisy never forgets where she comes from, and that really is because nobody will let her forget that. Not in a bad sense, but May, I remember that one line that May had with Daisy, and she said, your powers didn't make you an agent. I made you an agent. Like, I trained you. It's not your powers that make you good at what you do. It's my training and you as a person. And Max says the same thing. He goes to get Daisy in previous season, and she's like, I don't have my powers. He's like, got the powers I'm looking for, spark plug or whatever he wants to call her. It's like, I need your hacking powers. So, they always are focusing on the person and the skill set the person has and not the powers that they have. Like Yo-Yo is still valuable whether or not she can run fast. So I thought that was nice. Again, I also laughed when Mace is like slightly attracted to Ada and so shocked that she is an android. Same as Phil. Maybe just guys don't pick up on the fact that she's an android, and Simmons and the women do. I don't know. I love that Phil's dropping mentorship advice to Mace. He says this one line of a good director needs to know what assets he has at his disposal, even a risky one. And that's why he, brings Ghost Rider into the field and whatnot. So I love that, Mace is really learning under Phil, even though Mace is the director, but Phil really is the one with all the experience. So that's great. I like seeing him in that mentorship role because he's just so good at it. It's natural to him. And then, of course, we have May ordered to go to Ratcliffe's lab. And as you said, Dee, that's the last we see of her. And she's gone, which is so frustrating and sad. We learned that Fitz doesn't like clowns or clowns with pointy knives in dark places, which we could have really used against the Doctor, We should have stored that mental knowledge. I love that they call it the Demon Corps. And Max, like, you can't make this stuff up. It's just
So an actual thing, yes.
Yep. And I like the scene where we have Mac and Mace arguing, where we actually start to see how Mac feels about Elena. He stops calling her Yo-Yo. He starts calling her Elena again. We learn that they've actually gone on dates before. They talk on the phone, and then he kind of ghosts for a bit. Pardon the pun. For this season.
No, it's appropriate. Yeah.
And, it's because Mace wants to send Yo-Yo back to pick up a plutonium bomb, which feels like this is not a good idea. It's not that I don't back your ideas. It's that this is a bad one, and I don't back bad ideas. So come up with a better one. So we still are seeing that Mace is just kind of fumbling in this role, and he doesn't have the experience that Phil has to, use his team at his disposal. And it's Fitz and Simmons that kind of crack the solution to the problem. I also love that he calls Mace out on Senator Nadine. It's like, okay, if we're going to be talking about hidden secrets, what about Senator Nadine? What's going on there? So finally, we have kind of everything out in the open for this episode. And Daisy asking why, if he's Inhuman, why he's going to work with someone who hates Inhumans. And this is just foreshadowing the reveal that Mace actually isn't Inhuman. He's just superpowered or on a lot of steroids.
Yeah. Well, there is an interesting scene, I think it is earlier in this one, where you actually have kind of Mace almost step back from directorship, where he's talking with Coulson and everything. He's like, it's like a team, what is it? It's talking about the team that trusts. We don't trust that. He just kind of sits down. We're not even a team. And that is a resignation where, of course, Phil now has to be, as the agent, be his director role and kind of get Mace up and going. So again, it just shows that ultimately, yes, Coulson should be leading. There's just technical reasons of why he's not. That goes on with this. So I mean, it is, again, it plays the characters really well. And yeah, Rob, you're right on. The effects when Yo-Yo is running is just beautifully done through this season. I love that we've got those little moments, those like images behind her as she travels and through, and it's just freaking super cool.
I can say that one scene where Mace sits down really defeated, that's where I kind of felt sorry for him. I'm like, okay, guys, we've kind of been a bit hard on him. He's trying his best. Let's be a team. Let's work together.
And he does. He steps forward and he covers Daisy and pulls her in and uses his knowledge of playing it. Just go with it. Trust me, it'll be fine. He trusts the team and he exhibits that trust. And of course, that's how it all actually sort of happens.
And he joins them in that big fight scene too. Like, it's nice to kind of see him in the field instead of behind a desk all the time. Because if you remember, that's originally where he came from. He was in the army. He was a soldier. Yeah. So for him, being behind a desk is as weird for him as it is for everybody else. He's just trying to do this job. And I was really impressed with how the writers of S.H.I.E.L.D. could take a character that I hated at the beginning and just wanted to, I was mad because I'm like, you took Phil's job, I hate you, to, okay, I actually kind of like your character.
Yeah.
All right, you're not too bad.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, so I think that pretty much covers all of our Ghost Riders. And obviously, at the end, the rider takes Eli and disappears off to somewhere else. We don't know at the moment. Will he come back? As Coulson says, the last rider did, which of course implies that he knows a lot more about these things. He even had given the story of the Darkhold. Even everybody wanted it, even Fury, and no one could find it. So it just gives that little bit more that Coulson always knows a little bit more than we think.
Was he referencing? I was wondering if he was referencing himself, because he was the Ghost Rider for a short period of time, and then they went through that time, like into the other dimensional plane, right?
Well, no, but that hasn't happened yet. Oh,
okay. Sorry, I'm thinking ahead.
Yeah, I know. It's a bunch of awesomeness, but no, to me, this is implying either previous writers or something about Johnny Blaze and stuff. Because if you know Ghost Rider mythos, there's a bunch through time and all sorts of things. So, to me, again, it just is that little drop of like, wow, Phil knows a lot more than what he's playing on. And of course, yes,
Phil's been rattling around the background for years. Because I mean, he was with Fury in Captain Marvel, so he's seen a lot of things. There's a lot of stories that Phil's got up in his head, that they don't talk about, and I'm sure a lot of it's classified Shield, information. And so having that character who has that kind of, he is the Nick Fury of this and has all this information that when they decide to release it, it never doesn't make sense that Phil knows it.
Yeah. Agreed.
So the May that we see in this fight scene where they're all teaming up together is Android May.
Yeah.
That's not our May. So Android May has some sick moves.
Well, she is May. I mean, in effect, that's kind of the cool thing. It's yeah, I know. This is when we get to the whole identity stuff, which ends up being just like, again, to me, this is philosophical, just like delicious fruit.
She basically downloaded like how to be a awesome agent training level 1000 into her brain.
And also that Phil and Melinda didn't actually share that bottle together.
Yeah.
I know, that's hurt so much. It really does. And I think, and again, that's just beautiful writing. They set up how important this is, and right in front of us, they let us know, but that's not real. Now you're gonna feel bad.
See, I want to know what happened between May leaving and May being knocked out. Like, what was that fight? I want to see what that fight was like. What happened?
She could have just like just a quick bonk, because she's already got May's brain scanned from when she was fixed.
Because we saw like blood from her ear down her neck, but
yeah,
whatever happened.
Again, and to me, it's easy to assume that was just a whack.
The only other thing is a side note is that Ada finally becomes the shield, so she fulfills her purpose.
She does. She does get to be the shield, and does sort of sacrifice herself to save. Was it Fitz and Gemma who stand up behind and just
shoot
blam,
the guy?
Blam, blam, which is again, awesome. I mean, they get such great imagery in this. You get hero
Love
shots.
is shooting somebody together. It's like Hunter and Bobby, but it's Fitz and Simmons.
Yeah. A few little last comments here from the chat. Vic Rant mentioning what was it here? LOL when MCU fans say they miss Quicksilver. As an AOS fan, I forgot him the moment I met Yo-Yo. Yeah. Exactly. She fills that role perfect. Also, how it was crazy that The Flash and Agents aired at the same time, at the same night. You would occasionally get similar moves and storylines. Let's see, we got here. And of course, Silver Surfer liked the idea of Robbie and Daisy together because he always thought that Lincoln was a garbage character. Oh, I didn't think he was garbage, but I did like Robbie and Daisy together. And to be honest, it's one of those things where you can't always have relationships. Sometimes you can just sort of set connections. And I really like the connection that these two characters had. It felt realer than many of the other stuff. And look, we're not going to talk about season 7, but I still prefer this over the one relationship they ended up giving her. So next week, same bat time, same bat station, same shield time, same shield station, I guess we should use. We will be covering the next 7 episodes of season 4. That is the LMD arc. Starting from episode 9 through 15, 15 being what many have said might be the best episode of the series. But as always, those are a little bit up in the air. We will get into that then. And then, of course, the following week, we will wrap things up with our Agents of Hydra arc, which I'm really excited to get into. Anyway, I wanted to thank everybody for joining us live. Everyone who's joining us in the archives, always appreciate you checking out our discussions. I know we went a little long this time, but come on, it's a great season. There is much to talk about. Let's talk things down to Corrie first. We'll change up the order here. Any final thoughts, and let people know where they can find you?
Oh, final thoughts. Oh my goodness. Just that it's the start of a great season. And I love seeing the characters that have changes we aren't expecting, like Mace. That was a really neat twist, at least for me, because I wasn't expecting it. And they had to win me over from hating a character to loving a character to crying when he died. So if you can do that with me as a viewer, then you get A+ for me in terms of writing and design. Yeah, and it's lovely to see Simmons and Fitz really growing into their character, becoming stronger. And I'm so frustrated with Phil and May right now. I just want them together. So, yeah.
And where can they find you?
They can find me a website. I'm an author. It's Literature with Charm. You can also find me on Facebook as CL Shoemaker, or if you search for me at my tag below here at Biblical Bliss, I'll show up on YouTube there as well. Perfect.
Rob, what about you? Any final thoughts, and where can people find you, or what are you doing?
Well, I mean, I remember when they first announced they were doing Ghost Rider, and I was very nervous. Not because I was worried about who was going to be the Ghost Rider or any of that. I just didn't know if it would look good. And maybe that it was too ambitious. And then they exceed my low expectations completely. And I just couldn't be happier with how they did it. How they and just how they were able to bring that new kind of element to the show, magic. And not just magic, but like supernatural, real heaven and hell stuff, like it's just crazy. And it makes our characters question everything that they know up till this point, and real villains. And our characters continue to change. And we've got this, the beginnings of what's going to happen in this with characters like Fitz and where they're going to end up, and with Radcliffe and Ada, and just the heartbreak of knowing that May is an LMD. And I just you just can't top this show, man, as far as like comic book shows go. And it's just, again, I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but I love it. I love this season. And someday they're going to bring this guy into the world, and I hope that people like this Cosmic Ghost Rider, I hope that the people keep putting out quality work like they have been. Like, get more of these Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. writers on Marvel properties. I don't know what those writers are doing, where they've all landed, but we need some of them on some of these Marvel shows. Because I think that one of the weakest parts of some of the shows has been a little bit of the writing, as far as dialogue and character. And I think that some of it could be better. I'm looking at you, Falcon and Winter Soldier. But other than that, I'm really excited to move on to the next section, the LMD section, which, episode 15 is going to be nuts. You can find me at Twitter at reviews_gun. You can find me on Twitch at Smirking Gun Plays, where we've been deep diving into Witcher 3. And on my YouTube channel, Smirking Gun Reviews, where we're just having fun. We're not really doing anything too super serious. I'm rolling out my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4 videos. I want to make sure that they're as good as I can make them before I release them, even though they're niche. I want to make a good product and have fun doing it. And it's the same with, we're doing The Leftovers. We're about to start season 3 of The Leftovers. We're about to do some more Doctor Who, Peter Capaldi run. We're doing comic book reviews. Again, we haven't been doing too many of those, but we're back to doing comic book reviews. And we are also doing Rob's Never Seen, where I'm talking about classic movies that I probably should have seen by now, but have not. And we've already done our first one, which was Casablanca. The next one we're doing is, I've already recorded it. I've already recorded 2 more, one for the Treasure of the Sierra Madre and the Maltese Falcon. We're doing Humphrey Bogart because I'd never seen any Humphrey Bogart films. So those are in the can, and we're about to do the African Queen very soon as well. So that's what's going on with me.
Excellent. Well, do remember, of course, there's gold in them dar hills. God, love that freaking line from Treasure of the Sierra Madre. I'm D. You're watching my channel, D's Reviews. I get a lot of great, awesome people here. We talk about great, awesome shows. Like I mentioned, we will be continuing next week with the LMD pod. And of course, the week after, we'll wrap things up with Agents of Hydra. There are a bunch of Marvel Plus shows coming forward. We'll probably be doing discussions of those as well. I am not doing Walking Dead reviews anymore, but this guy is.
Yeah, I forgot. I guess I am.
And you should check those out if you're looking for some thoughts. Maybe I'll join like a mid-season or end-of-season discussion and kind of get on. To be honest, I'm too crazy to be able to do any regular reviews like that. So support other awesome reviewers like Rob here. Watch his stuff. He talks really good stuff.
Yeah, I forgot. I'm also going to be on Alyssa Jean's channel Thursday to talk What If Episode 3.
Yeah.
And
Bubby's on there
on
too.
September 3rd, if you're into comic books, I'm going to have the artist from the book Stray Dogs coming back to my channel to talk about the variant covers they did, the free comic book day issue that they did, the trade paperback. So that's going to be a live video talking to the artist Trish Forstner. She's really great. So that's also happening.
See,
I got
awesome
too much
stuff.
going on.
You got awesome stuff, Rob. And tonight, of course, at midnight or tomorrow, depending on where you are, the next What If episode will drop, which I do believe has the return of Agent Phil Coulson. So definitely something worth checking out. And then you can go over to Lisa Jean's channel on Thursday and listen to her, Mark, and Rob talk about it. But that's going to be it for us now. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll go ahead and catch you all next time. Take it easy and